These have to be some of the grossest unit models in the entire game, and I mean that as a compliment. Hey guys, today I'm here with another unit highlight. Today we're taking a look at animated Hulks for the Vampire Coast. And you can see I have them paired with Sirens here. There's a specific reason for that. Here with a patron of mine, Noldor, he's playing Warriors of Chaos. I've got the Coast, and yeah, gone with a little bit of a rush build here. So let's take a look at these animated Hulks. They are pretty cheap, only 750 points. They have really good weapon strength. That's kind of the first thing I would say that jumps out to me that's good about them, is their weapon strength for the cost is very solid. Monstrous infantry, of course, high mass. They are very squishy. 0 armor, and, only 35 armor, 24 melee defense, 30 attack, so their stats are pretty poor. 38 speed's also not amazing for monstrous infantry. But given their poor defensive stats, I thought, hey, why not pair them with Sirens, who are a little bit faster. They're close to the same speed, but they can kind of keep up with each other to a degree. And the Sirens, of course, coming with this -9 melee attack debuff means that that low melee defense won't be so much of an issue. To also help with that, we've got some melee attack debuffs in the form of Silostra here on foot. You can see Archaon from the other side of the field is going to open up with a fireball, and of course Archaon also does magic damage in melee, so Silostra is going to be in for a pretty bad time. Let's just say that. But the idea here, my thinking, was number one, No Heck November starts early, so why not just do it now? And yeah, we've got this one here, Fog of the Damned specifically. Great spell for debuffing enemy melee attack again, and she's also got the Song of Enthrallment. Same thing with the Ghosts of the Past. Rest of the build, we've got the Fire Necrophects, a couple of shotguns, handguns, some halberds, regular zombies, up against some Spawn, which are definitely a very solid choice for Warriors of Chaos in this matchup. Some Marauders here getting mulched on already, Forsaken getting roasted out there, and of course Archaon leading the way. He's got an Exalted Hero also there in the back, some Hounds scattered around, some Chaos Knights with Lances as well, now deploying, had been in hiding there. So we're going to bum rush this side with this kind of, not necessarily mobile force, but strike force of Sirens, animated Hulks. Obviously going to blast through those Marauders, no problem. These Forsaken also going to get pretty well mown down here, and one of the units of Chaos Knights with Lances revealed itself, and this is not 100% cost effective for me. Like, this kind of strike force does cost a little bit more than these Chaos Knights, but they are going to be able to win pretty decisively here, which for me sort of validates what I was thinking. I don't know if the Chaos Knights got that great of a charge, but ideally if they charge the Sirens, Sirens will take some damage, but it's not going to be as bad as if they charge the animated Hulks. But anyway, we're going to pull up the Kraken's Pull here. Nice flashy spell. Quite a big Winds of Magic dump, but I figured, you know, since Archaon's on the field, I brought this just in case I do need to dump off Winds of Magic as quick as I can, because Silostra's obviously in not mortal danger because she's a ghost, but I don't, you get what I mean. Kind of keep it close though as Archaon comes in. Yeah, getting a really nice Piercing Bolts of Burning here placement. I'm gonna have to pull away, but it still does get pretty good contact on some Siren models there, even a handful of the animated Hulks as well. Pretty good stuff, kind of spreads the damage around. The Summoned Cav pushing up the back line, trying to get some rear charge terror routes. We're able to rout off the Marauders there, but the Chaos Warriors holding out, so we're going to detach, go after those Forsaken. Here, I made a little bit of a misplay in having Silostra. She originally came over here to try and terrify away these Hounds, but then Archaon gets in and just absolutely slaps her around, which is not a good time. She's going to sing at him, which is just not appropriate for the Lord of the End Times. It's really not going to do a lot, and he'll just banish her to the Netherrealm. So she'll pop that Fog of the Damned and just skedaddle out of there. We're going to switch the Gallows Giant in there to try and fight Archaon in melee just to keep him distracted for the time being, while this Strike Force works through the rest of the Chaos Army here. Got some Chaos Knights with Lances still, and these other infantry units starting to roll them up a little bit. My backline had been pressured pretty well. Didn't really do a whole lot. Maybe took out one unit of spawn there. All the spawn I did prioritize. They all disappeared relatively quickly, you might have noticed. But the main focus is on this kind of pairing right here. So far, I'm pretty happy with the animated Hulks. They have taken relatively little damage from these various units. So we'll see. Silostra does get taken out right here by Archaon after failing to escape The zombies are going to eat a charge there from the knights, and at this point I'm like, okay, maybe I don't want to fight Archaon in melee anymore with the Gallows Giant. Since Silostra's gone, there's no need to really commit there. I'm just going to detach and see if I can use up some more of the ammunition there, like shooting at especially the Chaos Knights, but any of the infantry, honestly. Any of the armored infantry will be very important here. I have made a pretty big mistake as well in letting these two way over chase on that Chaos Knights with lances there. I'm now going to realize and start to pull them back to the center of the battlefield, but balance power is still pretty close at this point. Feeling like I might have a chance to win. It's going to be tough to kill those characters, but potentially if I get them in a surround with the animated Hulks, the Sirens will, like Silostra, get absolutely canned. Just demolished by Archaon. Rolled up into a yoga mat and thrown out the window. I have no idea. But yeah, so if I can have the animated Hulks at least in there, circle beating, like I said, that good weapon strength, decent armor piercing damage for the cost, and then mass, obviously they'll be able to pin Archaon in, ideally, but another beautifully placed piercing bolts of burning here are going to just finish off the last of these Sirens, and the animated Hulks in his pocket just straight up deletes them. And they are gone. I do get a pretty nice roast into the side of there, but honestly, I haven't been getting that great a contact on the ranged attack here throughout the course of the battle. I mean, it does decent damage in melee as well, 500 weapon strength with anti-infantry, and still applies that burnt debuff. But yeah, as these Sirens crumble, they will still continue to apply that melee attack debuff, and you can see Chaos Knights, the Lance variant, don't have the best sustained combat stats anyway. They're down to 34 melee attacks, so they're more or less base chance to hit against the animated Hulks, which is pretty decent, all things considered. Animated Hulks, though, still getting worn down without any healing. Yeah, no Nehek is definitely a challenge, but I can see this working with a more, you know, I guess, boring and meta Vampire Coast build. Like if you brought Lore Vampires, maybe even you bring two casters and bring both Vampires and Lore of the Deeps. Maybe just have only Fog of the Damned on Lore of Deeps. And then also having Dance Macabre to buff their melee attack would be quite nice. They can dish out a little bit more damage more consistently against higher defense targets. And likewise, yeah, just having the healing obviously is going to be very good. But this last squad kind of comes in here, and a little bit of the issue of separation does become apparent as the Sirens get into combat well before the Hulks here, which is a little bit of a problem. Something you would need to manage. They're still not that far apart, though, all things considered. And as long as the melee attack debuff gets applied here, that's the main thing I care about. And Noldor's going to switch places with his infantry as well, come back and try and support Archaon against Gallows Giant. I'm basically just trying to force my way through and get to the Gallows Giant to support it with that melee attack debuff as well. But the Hulks are doing some decent damage. They're up to 21 kills, almost an XP chevron there. And let's see, they're now going to get a nice rear charge here, potentially. They don't have much of a charge bonus to speak of, which is unfortunate, but just absolutely disgusting looking units. Horrifying monstrosities, to be honest. Gallows Giant goes down. Speaking of horrifying monstrosities, the Poop Deck summon is gonna do okay. They'll help contribute to some routes here, and you can see actually most of the Chaos Infantry is gone, and it comes down to just Archaon and this Exalted Hero, more or less, fighting against the Sirens and the Hulks. Sirens and Hulks, unfortunately, at this point, just don't really have the leadership. I'd be curious if they were able to hold on to their leadership and not hit army losses. If they'd be able to beat Archaon, it's probably pretty unlikely, but I don't know. They could give it a go. Which they are doing so, until army losses hits and they all fall down. And Archaon wins. So well played to Noldor there. Yeah, I did make some mistakes in terms of my micro, but he was able to capitalize very well, and credit to him. One of those Chaos Knights, man, 122 kills and an XP chevron, very well done. Even though the spawn got demolished, they still were able to get some okay kills. I didn't have that wide of a build, to be honest. It wasn't that many unit models in comparison to some Vampire Coast armies. But nice job with Archaon as well. From my side, like, even though the Hulks didn't necessarily get chevrons, I think if I'd used them a little bit better, maybe they would have, but just the distribution of kills between both the Sirens and the Hulks you kind of add them together, and it ends up being pretty effective, I think. It's something I need to try out a little bit more, but definitely something I would say for you Coast mains out there should also give a shot. Or if you're like, say, a Beastman player, or a Norska player, and you're used to playing that monstrous infantry style, and you want to try Coast, maybe you try this as an option. I don't know. We'll see how it works. From my perspective, though, again, if we kind of compare animated hulks to some other monstrous infantry, they have some interesting kind of characteristics. So we'll go ahead and pull up the Foul Vampire Coast. We can compare them first. Norska's got a few monstrous infantry, so 750 though is on the low end for monstrous infantry. Most are going to be more expensive, like even trolls you can see are more expensive, but decent weapon strength, right? I mean, ice trolls have 120, which is really nice, and they're, you know, 200 points more expensive. Granted, they have regeneration and just kind of better all around. Less HP though, and obviously they're not undead, so there's that. They can route very easily. But if we were to compare, I'm trying to think, maybe some other cheaper monstrous infantry, maybe like Vampire Counts. That's a pretty decent one for Crypt Horrors. Crypt Horrors have poison, but they have a lot less weapon strength. They're pretty comparable otherwise in terms of stats, and they also have regeneration, which is quite nice, but that plus 40 weapon strength and the extra HP on the animated hulks means that if you can get that low melee defense to not be so much of an issue, they can punch quite a bit harder, and that was kind of the idea of stacking them with the Sirens, right? And if I were to say, again, more traditional type build, you could take Noctilus. I don't think has Dance Macabre, unfortunately. Yeah, he does not. He does have Enfeebling Foe, right? No, he actually doesn't even have that. So really, to maximize this, you probably want to go Double Caster, probably Vampires, Lore Vampire for your Lord, I would say, and then maybe just take Lore of Deeps. This Black Prept is a nice item for extra Winds of Magic. And then, yeah, just Lore of Deeps. Probably take her on the Crab, still with Hunger and Taunt, because those are very good, but you can cut that, whatever, lore attribute there, Kiss of the Deep, and only take Fog of the Damned, and basically use it if you have to. And you still got this chassis for armor-piercing melee attacks, extra heroic kind of single-entity presence, and the Taunt, and you'd probably be a little bit more limited in what you could do. The numbers of this kind of crew here, although, I don't know, with Coast, you can still take a pretty wide army to kind of support that. Yeah, this, you don't have any big monster presence right now, so you could kind of tweak around and see. Maybe you cut one of these squads here. That frees up a little bit more points to try and take like something like Gallows Giant. You still maybe want to take some handguns as well. I don't know. Maybe you play around with it a little bit and see. Let me know what you guys think. But that critical mass, especially of monstrous infantry, is something that other factions do very well. So, I don't know. Maybe something like this where you kind of just go all in. It still maybe get some extra terror presence from something like Night Terrors, or even bring a Haunter if you want another pretty strong single entity. You could definitely afford a Haunter in here, just like that. Maybe that's a better version of the build. You are still lacking in mobility, so maybe take some Hounds too, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Personally, I think animated hulks do need another look, because, I mean, that weapon strength is pretty good. I know I was going to do some other comparisons, but the other one quickly that I just wanted to touch on is Minotaurs actually have the same weapon strength, believe it or not, 110. I mean, they have extra bonuses depending on their weapon type, but just for the basic sword and shield, 110, same weapon strength as these animated hulks, and they are significantly cheaper. 77 AP here. I want to say, yeah, exactly the same as Minotaurs. Literally, they are Minotaurs, but much cheaper, and they're undead. Granted, they're kind of worse in every way except for their weapon strength, but they do have 1,000 more HP, and they're undead. So mitigate their terrible melee defense, and maybe they will shine. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.